Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mailbox for the 12th of September 2012. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of community interaction, gaming discussion, and all that good stuff. You can email in mailbox@cynicalbrit.com, that's mailbox@cynicalbrit.com, with topics for future shows. The game in the background is PlanetSide 2, probably for the last time for a little while. We'll see. I'm going to do a bit of Counter-Strike after that, maybe some Transformers, we shall see. Really depends on what I feel like. I don't really put a lot of thought into the games that go into the background. At the end of the day, it's just window dressing, because people would really hate a black screen. First email comes in here from Tenma that says, as of late, I've been reading articles from video game journalists that have been covering stories about how video game communities are immature, sexist, racist, and overall constantly focusing on the negative. But the one thing I have to ask myself after reading the article is this: who exactly is the journalist referring to when they use gaming community? There is never any sort of specific of a guild or clan or political organization that's being named in connection to the story, but somehow journalists have grown fond of using gaming community as some end-all be-all term, judging people who play video games. My question to you is this: do you think that it's alright for video game journalists or critics to write such articles without being specific as to the video game community involved? Also, do you find that sites like YouTube and 4chan should be considered valid examples of video game communities compared to, say, more organized communities like the ECA, PMS, H2O Gaming, and Team Liquid? Please don't make me say community again. Oh, God, it's a surprisingly difficult word to say without kind of smushing it. Regardless, I've said it many times before, I don't like the word community, and it's not just because it's difficult to enunciate, it's also because it is far too generic, and it also makes some assumptions about what a group of people actually is. When I talk about the YouTube community, what am I talking about? Well, if I were to say that, then slap me around the face, because there simply isn't one. There are communities within communities. I made the same argument back on Blue Please with World of Warcraft. You can't say the WoW community. There isn't one. The only thing tying these people together is the fact that they play World of Warcraft. They actually have very little interest in cooperating with each other, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the essence of a community. A real community, as in real life, may be an area, a suburban area where people are living, more often than not will have something tying it together rather than just its geographical location. There must at least be some form of cooperation and mutual interest beyond the fact that they all just live there. It's the same with video games. There must be some kind of cooperation, collaboration, discussion, and, of course, mutual interest beyond simply just playing the game. This is why a guild within WoW is a community, whereas the overall player base should not be considered as such. A guild is bound together by mutual goals. A guild is bound together by cooperation, and a guild will work together towards set objectives. That is a community. That is a regular group of people that are working together on a day-to-day basis towards something. The WoW community is not. There is no YouTube community. This does not exist. There are, of course, groups of YouTubers that may work together. More often than not, I would not call that a community. I would call that a business relationship. And then, of course, there are fan bases surrounding different channels. Even they are only bound together, most of the time, by one thing: the fact that they like the channel. That is not in itself a community. It's got to go further than that in order to make that happen. Anyway, when it comes down to blasting the gaming community, it's just lazy journalism. The reason it's lazy journalism, of course, is because you're attacking a straw man. You're attacking something that doesn't actually exist, and that is very, very easy. I have no doubt that I'm guilty of this at some point, and I probably will be again, because it's very, very easy to do. It's pandering. I can go on a rampage about something and just blast the gaming community for 5 minutes, and people go, yeah, that guy said something that I mostly agree with, I think. That sounds like something I should agree with because I'm a moral person. And that's what these articles are. It's like saying, oh, the gaming community needs to get over its sexist, immature, racist attitudes. It's like, I don't know about you, but having read an awful lot of forums on the internet and stumbled across various groups of people, I found that when it comes to people that join together with a mutual interest, you're going to find a lot of this kind of behavior regardless of whether or not it happens to be gaming related. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people do not take the internet seriously, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think if you take the internet too seriously, you're going to have some fairly major problems. That doesn't necessarily excuse this kind of behavior by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it allows you to understand why people express those opinions. They're most of the time just blowing off steam. They don't really believe that. If you find those kind of groups in real life, that's when you need to start getting a little bit concerned. But the fact of the matter is, these articles are written because they are easy traffic. They generate controversy. They bring in people that view themselves to be moral individuals, upstanding members of this imaginary gaming community. It's like, yeah, I agree with that because I'm a moral, enlightened, and upstanding member of this imaginary gaming community. There's a term called white knighting, and it's very, very common to see that kind of thing, white knighting and apologists, and it makes people feel better. Honestly, it really does. But these articles don't do a damn thing, because they don't target root causes, they don't target specific communities or people, actual groups, real communities. They're not targeted by this kind of thing at all. It's just broad stroke blasting of things that don't necessarily exist. Here's the thing, these problems are everywhere. Just look all over YouTube, look on any video, and you will find this kind of behavior. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be about knitting. You will find a racist there. I can guarantee it. Just look at any reasonably popular video, you will find that kind of behavior, and you cannot nail it down to a single imaginary community. You cannot say that it is gamers that are causing this, you can't say that it's music fans that are causing this, you can't say that it's iPad owners that are causing this. It's all over the place because people just generally don't give a damn. The internet is a place to vent the stupid crap that's building up in your head that you will get slapped about in real life if you actually professed. It is a place to dump your dumb opinion, which is, I might add, exactly what a lot of these journalists are doing when they write these kind of articles. They are lazy, they don't target any specific group, it is one giant strawman argument, and it serves no practical purpose. Great, you're on your soapbox ranting again about how gamers are racist and sexist and immature, blah blah blah. And that is impressing who exactly? The people that are acting this way are certainly not going to be turned by your arguments. Indeed, they will be empowered by them. You have given attention, someone's got their jimmies rustled. Tra-la-la-la-la. Yeah, welcome to the internet. It gives an unfettered mouthpiece to people's personal stupidity. This one comes in from Anon that says this: it was announced that Terraria will be coming to Xbox Live Arcade and PSN with extra content. While there's news to be announced in the PC version, there's a sudden huge outcry from the PC gamers. Now, most of the complaints are mostly childish, ranging from herder consoles, but one of the things that makes me scratch my head are the comments that normally say we'll have to buy it again, and that the developers, forgive me, I don't know the name of the company, have backstabbed the PC gamers, because apparently the game's last huge update was the last, and the game would have been left alone from there. Now, I understand why some PC gamers will be upset because of the extra content, but the way they rage makes it sound like they absolutely need to buy the console version. Now, there's nobody forcing them to buy it, why not wait for an update on the PC side? The content will probably make its way to the PC version. I think that the devs are making the extra for consoles only temporarily, and then they'll release it on PC, very similar to how Dark Souls on PC has the new content and the console version will be getting it soon. I think the people raging about this are really just making the stereotypical PC game as a stuck-up thing even more true. Do you think PC gamers have a right to be angry, or is it just straight-up elitism again? Oh, well, okay, so this whole Terraria thing is disappointing to me, because I kind of like Terraria, and it would be nice to see some new content, but I'm not entitled to it. Of course not. I bought the game for $10. Oh, 10 glorious dollars, and how many hours of fun and entertainment? Hell, I've made a bunch of money from Terraria. Are you kidding me? I'm the last person to be complaining about this. I bought a $10 game and I made God knows how much money from that stupid series. So, to me, it would be absurd to actually attack Relogic for this. The thing is, this is really common, and I'm very surprised that people don't understand that. When games come late to a different format, they almost always come with some kind of add-on. The reason is super simple. It's because you can't really sell at full price a game that's been out for a couple of years to gamers on a different format. They will feel screwed over. And why indeed should they not? The game's probably $15 to $20 on another format at that point. A couple of examples that I can pull off the top of my head, of course, Dark Souls. Dark Souls released on PC, cheaper, with additional content. But if we were to go back a little bit further, let's actually talk about something that's a bit console-specific. Let's talk about BioShock. The original BioShock comes out on PC and 360. Later down the line comes out on PS3 with a little bit of additional content. Mass Effect 2 on PlayStation 3, for instance, that came out later down the line, and as a result, they put more content in it, because people aren't going to buy it otherwise, are they? Did some of the 360 owners whine and scream about that? Maybe. But it doesn't really matter because they weren't entitled to that stuff. They got the game on launch, they knew what was in the box, and this feels kind of like a repeat of what I said yesterday, only hitting just a little bit closer to home with a game like Terraria. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Terraria is an interesting beast because they ceased production prior to putting out any kind of modding tools for it, which kinda sucks. Like, if Minecraft ceased production tomorrow, there was never any updates to Minecraft, Minecraft would be fine. Why? Because modders. It's as simple as that. That game's easy to mod, it's got all the tools that you need. Terraria is not easy to mod, and as a result, the modding scene, while determined, has not made a huge amount of progress. There are mods available, but nowhere near to the extent of Minecraft, not by any stretch of the imagination. To be honest, it would have been nice for Logic just to turn around and give us the mod tools in order to create content, and then if they want to move on to Starbound or whatever it is they're doing next, then fine. Here's hoping that the release on Xbox Live Arcade and PSN will actually allow them to do that. It could have been a budget reason, who knows? I don't know how much money Terraria actually made. I don't know what it takes to actually create those kind of tools. It's unfortunate that they didn't have them from the start, but I certainly don't think they're obliged to have them, and they're definitely not obliged to give additional content. They put in so much new content. They essentially doubled the amount of content that was in the game, and they did that for free. They could have sold hard mode as a DLC. They really could have, and they didn't. And I would be totally fine with them selling any new content that comes on Xbox Live Arcade and PSN as a DLC. I think they more than deserve that. It's a $10 game, for God's sake. How much fun have you actually had in Terraria? I think this kind of attitude doesn't necessarily demonstrate immaturity, although you can definitely say that it can in some people. It demonstrates that people really, really like the game, and they want to get as much enjoyment out of it as humanly possible. But it also demonstrates that some people really have problems just letting go. This is something I've never really understood as a gamer that buys a lot of different games and plays a lot of different games and just moves from game to game, because I like to experience everything that gaming has to offer. There are, however, so-called mono gamers that focus on one game, and as a result, they get very tunnel-visioned and they feel perhaps very entitled. It's like, we're hardcore fans. Well, that's nice and all, but you did just pay $10 like everybody else, so it's not like you're really entitled to anything. Here's hoping we get the content sometime down the line. It would be really nice. And, well, Xbox Live Arcade and PSN, welcome to the inventory management of Terraria. Enjoy. Oh dear, this is gonna be a tough one. This one comes in from Eric that says, recently Warner Brothers issued a cease and desist letter to the developers of the Middle-earth role-playing project MERP. This is a not-for-profit development team that's been creating a Lord of the Rings themed total conversion mod for Oblivion since 2008 and recently ported their work to the new Elder Scrolls game Skyrim. This mod would allow the player to follow the Ringbearer and other major characters of the Lord of the Rings books in their quest to save Middle-earth. Warner Brothers contacted them, asked for them to cease and desist their work on the project, since it infringed on their copyrighted IP. Warner Brothers VP of Public Relations, Remy Sklar, said simply, while we appreciate our fans' enthusiasm, we also need to protect our IP rights, when asked to comment on the situation by PC Gamer. Do you think that Warner Brothers has the legal right to ask the developers of MERP to cease and desist their work when MERP is not for profit, and it's being created using the Skyrim engine and its own art and assets? Moreover, do you believe that companies such as Warner Brothers should attack not-for-profit mods in order to protect their IPs? Man, that's a loaded question, honestly. If I turn around and say, well, it's actually entirely within their rights, then I'm just going to be blasted by everyone. But it is actually entirely within their rights. Do I think that they have a legal right? No, I know that they have a legal right. There is no real question about that. Don't bring up the whole fair use nonsense to me. Fair use is something that keeps being broken out as an argument and a reply to pretty much everything, and most people don't really understand it. I'm not going to discuss fair use here in great detail because, quite frankly, one, it's been a long time since I graduated law school, and secondly, it's a US law and not a UK law. It also doesn't apply in this instance. It's a doctrine that applies to stuff like news reporting, research, library archiving, scholarship, criticism. None of this stuff applies to a mod for Skyrim. It doesn't matter if it's for sale or not. Admittedly, non-profit stuff tends to benefit more from fair use than for-profit stuff. But in this case, it does not apply. Other things that also don't apply are things like First Amendment rights, which was actually a comment on PC Gamer that was upvoted. My God, please kill me now. First Amendment rights, are you serious? Anyway, this whole situation sucks for everybody. Nobody wins in this situation. Nobody. And it is really not very pleasant at all to see this kind of thing happen. Like, you know what I really hated from that quote was say, well, we appreciate our fans' enthusiasm. Warner Brothers guy, We're not your fans. We are fans of Tolkien's work. He's dead. You just happen to have the rights to produce films and games based on his content. We're not fans of your stuff. You didn't make Lord of the Rings. You didn't make the book. You didn't make the movie. Nobody cares that you bankrolled the Lord of the Rings trilogy. We like the work of Peter Jackson. We like the work of the numerous actors and everyone that was responsible for bringing this bloody thing to life. We don't care about you. Get that out of your head, you arrogant bastards, to start with. Now, before you think that I'm about to get on a big moral crusade against the big evil corporation, because, you know, ooh, that would be great, wouldn't it? That would be one of those rabble-rouser pieces that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, soapbox. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's talk about this rationally. So, a couple of things that the mod team didn't do. First, ask permission. We're just going to spend 6 years of our life making this gigantic mod and never at any point consider that the company that actually holds the rights to all of this material we're using might take a bit of exception to it. Super dumb. This is hardly the first time this has happened. A lot of people most likely remember the whole King's Quest incident. That was an interesting one because they actually got permission at that point, and then the company tried to revoke it, and eventually the King's Quest game did come out regardless, that being the silver lining. What ended up happening there was that it was granted a license by Vivendi in 2005. Vivendi was now merged with Activision in 2008. Activision became the new owners of the King's Quest franchise and IP rights, then revoked the license agreement, and then they C&D'd them. That really sucks, because that was a project that did everything the right way. Thankfully, it did come out eventually, because Activision did actually change their mind in 2010, so that was pretty good. Anyway, point is, for the love of God, why would you start such a mammoth project without at least investigating the possibilities? There's also some weird stuff at the start of this PC Gamer interview that I was reading that said, this is from the modder by the way, Warner Brothers first said they wanted to see if they could come to some kind of understanding, but when we offered to remove the Ringbearer main quest, they mentioned specifically that that was a problem. They refused and immediately wanted us to C&D without further negotiations. That's a little bit weird, to say the least. Of course, we only have the modder's word to go on here. It's very odd. I mean, they'd offer to negotiate, they then have this specific reply from the modders, and then they immediately shut it all down. I mean, why didn't the modders just say, okay, what do you need us to do? And then listen to the demands and then actually negotiate. It's really odd, and the whole situation just smells a little bit off to me. You expected the situation for the C&D just to come down straight away, rather than an initial offer for negotiation. It's possible that Warner Brothers heard about it, thought, alright, let's negotiate with them, then looked into it further and realized, oh god, there is so much stuff here, there really is no way we can possibly allow this to go on. Now, bear in mind that the history of this kind of activity often leads to a game following close afterwards. So, examples. CNC General's Halo mod. That was C&D'd, and a little bit further down the line we had Halo Wars. Another example. Battlefield 1942, there were numerous Star Wars mods, they were shut down, and then Battlefront came along. So I have to wonder whether or not we're going to be getting some kind of Lord of the Rings Ringbearer RPG experience, or whether this is just a case of, we've got to nuke all this stuff because The Hobbit's coming out soon and we want to make video games surrounding that. They do have to protect their IP, but of course they can license this kind of stuff. And indeed, I would argue that modding in this case often strengthens the IP itself, but there are arguments that if it's a really, really good mod, then people will just play this free mod that they're getting no money from whatsoever. Just bear this in mind, while it might be a not-for-profit mod, the IP rights holders are also getting nothing from it either, so you can kind of understand why it got to that particular situation. And a mod of this quality could actually reflect badly on video games and licensed stuff that actually comes out from the official company. That said, as far as I'm concerned, from a consumer perspective and someone that's a big, big fan and supporter of modding, quite frankly, that's BS. If you can't make a game that is up to that standard, then you shouldn't be making video games anyway. Congratulations, you got beaten into the floor by a bunch of part-time modders that are doing this for a hobby. You should be embarrassed. But then I've got to go back and ask the mod makers, why did you have to do a Middle-earth role-playing mod? The funny thing is about MERP, yeah? MERP is a very specific term. MERP actually exists. M-E-R-P is a different game system entirely. Why on earth call it Middle-earth role-playing? Middle-earth role-playing was an actual role-playing system. Hell, it still is. As far as I can tell from this mod, it doesn't have any intention whatsoever of recreating that. This just seems to be, hey, a full Ringbearer storyline. Alright, so you're just aping the books then. which is a complete waste, in my opinion. You've got a massive amount of rich lore to derive your mod from, and yet you decide, well, we're just gonna remake the story of the Ring Bearer. That's not that interesting. That's actually already been done before. So that indicates something of a lack of creativity in that regard. It's really a shame. I would have actually liked to see a proper Middle-earth role-playing game, because I owned some of the old source books for Middle-earth role-playing, and there is a ton of stuff in there. An absolute metric ton. Anyway, beyond all of that disappointment and all of the shoulda, woulda, coulda, I've got to say that, as far as I'm concerned, Warner Brothers are well within their rights here, but here's the thing about rights. When you have power, the best thing to do is to only exercise it when absolutely needed. With great power comes great responsibility. If you think that this will dilute your brand, I would like to point you to the 1,000,001 other Lord of the Rings related games and mods and fanfics and everything else that happen to be coating the entire internet. You are fighting a losing battle in that regard. Fan works for this great piece of literature do strengthen your brand. They strengthen the interest in the things that you produce. The people that play these mods will also play your games, they will also buy your Blu-rays, they will also go and see your movies if they happen to be up to par. It does not make any sense for large multinational corporations with more money than God to be intimidated by a bunch of guys in their bedrooms. As a result, I certainly would support the petition, and I would implore Warner Brothers to reconsider and try and figure something out here, because this doesn't help anybody. There's a link to the petition in the description below this video, folks, if you would like to sign it and you would like to let Warner Brothers know that it would be good to come back to the table and try and figure something out with these guys. Hopefully, everything gets resolved. That would be nice, but, well, knowing the history of these things, I'm not exactly holding out any hope. Okay, folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Mailbox, and I will see you next time.